So hello everyone. Today I'm going to be in conversation with Claudia Sperrfechter, and I hope I've pronounced that correctly. Oh, good. And
Perfect.
we're going to be talking about critical thinking in virtual exchange. But before we get stuck in, Claudia, please introduce yourself to our audience.
Yes, hello to everyone. I teach computer science at the Heilbronn University. Heilbronn is a very small town in the south of Germany, and my specialty is all kinds of innovative methods of teaching within the domain of computer science, of teaching students. So we've been trying lots of different approaches to teaching, mainly game development based learning. So learning by using games or by creating games. And we've been trying out which content we can mostly teach by doing that. But we've used all kinds of different methods, but this is just my specialty.
Well, thank you for joining us today, Claudia. In fact, I spoke last week to your colleague, your partner in crime, Nicole
Yes.
Onbush, for the game development-based learning. And she said something interesting. She said that when you evaluated some of the students at the end of this virtual exchange, they believed that they were better at the critical thinking aspect than they actually turned out to be. And I'm wondering if you can explain why this might be. Is it because they misunderstand what critical thinking is, or is there something else going on?
No,
Yeah.
I don't think they misunderstand what critical thinking is. It's just that if you never try out things and you never see your limits, if you don't compare them with others. So that's something that happens a lot with courses that tend to foster critical thinking. So if you ask students what their level of critical thinking is, most students overestimate themselves, and it's especially with virtual exchange courses that students by working with international students find out that their view of what critical thinking should be is a bit limited. Um, but it's not only with international students, also with students from other disciplines. It turns out that students have to rethink a little bit what their abilities are. But, there's always also the problem that they might overestimate their abilities at the beginning, and they tend afterwards, maybe intentionally, maybe not intentionally to adapt to the view of the others. So it's sometimes it's a bit difficult from a the point of view of doing some research into that. How much of this is biased? How much of this is really a true transformation that you see in students or not?
I see. So in terms of the role that virtual exchange can play in fostering critical thinking, what did you find? Because you undertook, I think, a couple of iterations of the game development based learning with Nicole. What did you find in terms of the role that virtual exchange can play in fostering critical thinking?
Well, as I said, it's the role of virtual exchange is very, very important because you have this contact with international students. Lots of our students are students who have grew up in Heilbronn and have stayed here all their lives. They don't have that much contact with people from other countries. So it's
Well, they
very, very
haven't
important.
travelled, is
They
what you're
haven't
saying.
traveled that much. So it's very, very important for them to also know of these global dimension of the world. And actually, the whole concept of critical thinking has evolved over time. So if you look at it from the very first steps of critical thinking, let's say in ancient Greece, you see that very much of it is rooted on what is the fundamentals of their view of the world. Whilst during the Enlightenment, we moved towards a more individualistic view of the world, and in the 19th, 20th century, psychology came into play. But we have to see that at the end of the 20th century and now in the 21st century, we have a shift towards, uh, considering problems in a global way. There's no way that our students, who will be the future developers of technology, of applications that can really have a huge impact in the world, can develop their systems without looking at the global dimension of it. And this is where also critical thinking comes into it. You have to have a view on it that is open to all of the problems around. The virtual exchange helps students definitely looking at it from different perspectives. One of the most profound moments for me in this whole course was when I was talking at the end of the course with some of the students from the Netherlands, and they told me, I always thought that, I always took democracy for granted.
Ah.
um, and now, by having this exchange with the Venezuelan students, by looking at the problems that we're going to face globally, by developing certain systems, by setting up some AI based systems, I now know that I have to put much more effort into it,
Wow.
and how important it is. Actually, he said this will be the first time I will go and vote. so
Oh,
so
wow,
this
that's
is,
so important, isn't it? Well, really satisfying moment because voting is wow.
yeah. So it's really a very important dimension that virtual exchange adds to teaching critical thinking.
Mm.
So all of the methods that have been proposed to teach critical thinking can be used also with virtual exchange. So whether it's like more immersive methods where you really don't focus that much on teaching the let's say the basics of critical thinking, but let them work and let them create their own, or foster their own skills and abilities by working on a project, or whether you have approaches where you first teach the theory and that go to work together. All of this can be done with virtual exchange as well. But this dimension of having people come out of their very limited world, this is extremely important for students.
I'm just wondering, one final question before I let you go. I mean, you and Nicole used the Venezuelan students' experience of demonstrations that occurred in Venezuela due to social unrest back in 2017. I can't help thinking things are shifting very quickly now, and the impact on democracy, as you were saying, from what I can see, there's a real threat at the moment. And I'm wondering, in your future iterations, will you use, for example, what's happening now in the world as a spark for your virtual exchanges? Have you thought about that and what you'll use next?
Yes, definitely. So we really want. Last time we focused on SDG 16, on justice and democracy. We really want to make a difference to students. So we will definitely do that again, probably with maybe another focus. But we are planning lots of things right now, and yeah, we're actually we're working with Malaysia, and Alexandria in Egypt, and Uganda in a common project where we put all students together and work together on computer science problems, uh, but always with this little nudge, where we tend to foster critical thinking.
Is there anything else you'd like to add about critical thinking and virtual exchange before I let you go today?
I think that in principle, all virtual exchange fosters critical thinking. So no matter what you do in your virtual exchanges, there will always be a component there. The thing is that by maybe choosing the right topics on which to focus on really helps students, and I think that SDGs are a good way of fostering
Sustainable
critical
Development
thinking,
Goals, sorry, just to
right?
clarify, the UN's Sustainable Development Goals.
Yeah, sorry, as I've been using the term so much that sometimes I tend to forget that other people might not be so familiar with it. Yes,
So
right. So
you're saying the Sustainable Development Goals are a good um, framework for fostering critical thinking.
yes,
Yeah.
definitely. So no matter which, whether you are working in computer science or in philosophy or whatever, I think, or if you're putting together students from different disciplines, it's always a good starting point, in my view, to foster critical thinking.